if you could kind of reset for our audience that perhaps the discussion was had about Jaylon Smith not wanting to waive his injury guarantee off of the 2022 portion of the contract. Is that what you learned to be maybe what kind of finalized the decision about waiving Jaylon?
Woo, there were layers to this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was on my way to a Band of Horses concert last night at House of Blues, which was
The
excellent.
Funeral, am I
way.
right? That's a great song.
The way he hits those chords, the vibrato. So I'm looking forward to a fun night with my girlfriends. Adam Schefter breaks this, credit to him. And I immediately jump on the phone because, like all of the fans, it wasn't the move that surprised me. I had called a few teams last year because I was told the Cowboys had tried to trade him, and I'd had a few GMs walk me off the ledge there. In other words, I don't know how serious it got, so maybe they didn't want to characterize it, but there are also a lot of GMs that are friends with Stephen Jones, the Cowboys, and you don't want to make a situation tenuous for that player by actively putting it out there that they're trying to trade him, right? So then he gets his off-season wrist surgery, which immediately kicked in that guaranteed $7.2 million. All right, so now they're on the hook. So now they've got he's on your roster, you're still trying to find trade partners, they're unsuccessful, and then you start getting these guys playing really well, your younger guys. So I had a team and now another one reach out to me and say, you know how aggressive the Cowboys have been in the last 2 weeks trying to trade Jaylon? And I said, if you'll notice, he had spent more time on the bench in these last 4 games than he had in the last 2 seasons combined. And I was told that's because the Cowboys were calling down there and saying, we don't want him playing because if he was to injure himself or have to have another cleanup surgery in the off season, they'd be on the hook for $9.2 million. So I did ask the question to Mike McCarthy today, all right, well, you're already on the hook for $7.2 million. We've had Leighton get injured in the past. We've got COVID. You know, Keanu Neal had it at one point. Why not have an adult conversation with Jaylon and sit him on the bench or, God forbid, have him inactive? And he wouldn't get into that, but I think you can kind of read between the lines. He was a captain on Sunday. He considers himself a leader on this defense. While I have no doubt that he could be a pro's pro, I've got to think that's going to erode some of the energy and the morale on that defensive side of the ball that has been so positive this year versus last. And so I think it just made more sense for all parties to just go ahead and cut him rather than have him be inactive. Now, one other layer to this, the Cowboys did reach out to Jaylon Smith camp and say, would you be interested in waiving the injury guarantee clause? In other words, we feel better putting you out there. We owe you $7.2 million, but if you get hurt, we got to pay you $9.2. If we get rid of that, maybe, you haven't been playing as well as the younger guys, but yeah, we'll keep you on the bench. And I was told, quote, he refused. And so I think when you get to that situation, again, while I have no doubt that he was an absolute pro, and I'm sure he wants to continue having the relationships that he does with the Jones family and everyone. He's a smart businessman. He gets it. Don't burn bridges. I didn't burn bridges with you guys when you guys cut me over there at the fan.
Right.
So true.
That's why we.
And so and it worked out better for me, and hopefully it works out better for Jaylon Smith.
Okay, so nobody would bite on the trade. Do you think that their teams
still got 2.5 hours?
We still got 2.5 hours, and we just saw with Stephon Gilmore. We'll get to that shortly. But nobody bit then. Do you think anybody's going to say, hey, we'll take a flyer on this guy, or this guy could be an important piece to us?
I think given how aggressive they were last year and in the last 2 weeks, I don't see it happening. And again, I don't want to say things about, Jaylon as he's going out the door, but I think there were some frustrations, as people have frustrations with a lot of players moving forward, but this league is small and people talk. I mean, we certainly even saw that with Dez on some levels, so I just think it's a reminder that, it's a small fraternity, the league, and in most business circles. And I just think once there's a narrative about some people, it's hard to move on from that. Do I think that he is a good guy, great story, maybe a fresh start somewhere else is good for him? And we've seen that with players in the past. I mean, not a great comparison, but look at Ryan Tannehill and how much better he did when he went to another team. Sometimes a change of scenery is good. And so I hope that for Jaylon, I hope that he gets another opportunity. But, as much as fans were outraged about Jaylon Smith being on this team, they were equally outraged that they cut him the way they did, but it was actually fairly smart on the Cowboys' part, business-wise.